Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Time to Draw with Mr. Shaw. Today we're going to be drawing a very popular book character, Captain Underpants. He's a pretty easy character to draw, so follow along with me today. I'll be drawing, starting with some simple shapes. We'll add details as we go along. If you get stuck, if you get left behind, if I'm going too fast, feel free to pause the video, rewind it, rewatch it. Remember, every time you draw it, you're going to get a little bit better. So you don't have to watch these just once. You can watch them again and again and again and again, until they look the way you want them to look. So let's go ahead and get started. As always, you need something to draw with, either a pencil, marker, crayon, pen, and something to draw on, a piece of paper. If you're starting to run low on paper in your house, remember, paper has two sides. You can always draw on the back. Sometimes people like to bisect their paper, maybe draw a line down the middle, draw one picture on this side, one picture on this side. You can maximize your drawing space. But let's go ahead and get started with Captain Underpants. Now, Captain Underpants is a pretty strangely shaped fellow. He's kind of shaped like a big bean. But to make that a little easier to draw, I'm actually going to start with a very light circle. Nice big round circle. And I'm going to do this really lightly because eventually I'm going to be erasing a little bit up here. If you don't have an eraser, maybe just draw the bottom part of that circle and kind of pretend to draw the top half. So once you do have that circle in place, coming up from the edge of the circle right here, we're just going to draw a big old dome, kind of a curved shape like this. And this is actually going to be Captain Underpants' head. So once I think I have a good shape for that, I'm going to darken the edges of this. I'm going to darken the edge of the circle a little bit. And then I'm going to erase that line where those two shapes met. And now, if you're a fan of those books, Captain Underpants, you can kind of see this is that weird bean shape that he is. So now we can start drawing some of the details. We can start making him look like a fabulous underwear sporting superhero. Now, one thing I want to block in first is kind of where his head's going to be. So I'm going to draw a curved line, this time coming down in this direction, very lightly, all the way around. It almost looks like a piece of candy corn right now. It's almost like a cone shape. So I'm going to draw that curved line very lightly, and then a little closer to the top, I'm going to start drawing in the features of his face. So I'm going to draw two just little dots for his eyes, pretty much near the top of the head. You can go ahead and give those little eyebrows, little curved eyebrows. His eyebrows are raised. He's going to be smiling. If you want him to look angry, you could have little down eyebrows. But I want him to look pretty happy in this picture. Next, I'm going to draw his nose. Now, his nose is just a curved line going like this. But then in the ends of this little curved line, this rainbow shape here, just curve it in just a little bit here and here. Kind of like this shape. That shape doesn't really have a name, so we're going to call it a curved line with two smaller curved lines under. Now after that, I'm going to draw a nice big curve for that smile. And at the top of that curve, I'm going to draw a little dimple, a little curved line here. But I want his mouth to be wide open, like a big, handsome Captain Underpants smile. So I'm going to draw another curved line coming all the way down and then all the way up to this point. I'm going to give it a nice big curve. Now it looks like his mouth is open. So I'm going to draw another curved line near the top here and some straight lines to show his teeth. And then I'm going to draw what looks kind of like a bent over letter M with a bump in the middle and then a bump going down. See how it looks kind of like a letter M? And that'll be his tongue. And I'm going to color the inside of his mouth in with my pencil. Now, if you're planning to color your Captain Underpants later with some markers or some crayons, maybe some colored pencils, you could use those tools to color in his mouth, but I'm only using a pencil today, so I'm going to go ahead and use that wherever I can. Now, this curved line that we drew before is actually going to be his cape. So in the middle of that curved line, we're going to draw a little circle. He has a little knot here where he ties the cape around his neck. And we're just going to draw two little ovals popping out from that. I like to draw a little line inside those ovals just to make it look like cloth that's been tied in a knot. And then I'm going to draw another curved line just under those first two curves that I did. Now it looks like a solid piece of cloth wrapped around his neck. You can draw little lines on the edges where that cloth might be folded. Now before I draw the rest of his cape flying back here, I'm going to put in his arms, his legs, and most importantly his underpants. So let's start with his two arms. I'm going to have one arm coming straight up. Now right under his cape, you can see his cape is here around his neck. His arm is going to be coming out right from under that cape with two pretty long, pretty straight lines like this. Now, for his hand, I'm going to want that to be in a fist, like he's flying up through the air. Captain Underpants is a fist flyer. He doesn't fly with his hand straight out. He doesn't do a Spider-Man thing. He doesn't do any of those other motions, just pretty much a fist. And anytime I draw a fist, I start with that light circle shape, and then I look at my actual fingers. Now, my thumb is kind of a curve coming up from the top of the hand here, so I'm just going to draw that curved line coming around like this. And then I see that I have 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers that look kind of like ovals if I was trying to figure out a shape for that. Now, unfortunately, Captain Underpants is not a real person, and when I read the books, I see that he only has 3 fingers. So I'm going to make him look more like Captain Underpants and less like me, and I'm just going to draw 3 ovals. 1, 2, 3, just like that. And then I'm going to curve the bottom of his hand around, and that looks like a pretty good fist. Like, that's a really nice little hand there. Now I want to do the same thing back here. I want him to have another fist, but this time his arm's going to be curved back behind him. So instead of drawing 2 straight lines, I'm going to draw a curve here and a curve here. 2 curved lines, about the same distance apart from each other. It almost looks like a little rainbow. I'm going to erase the line where his body was so that it looks like that arm's coming out from his body. Now, since this is his other hand, it's his right fist, I'm not going to see it like this. He doesn't have his arm twisted around. I'm going to see the back of it. And typically, when you see the back of a fist, you only see the bumps of those fingers coming out. So I'm just going to do a little bump for his thumb, and then 1, 2, 3 bumps for his fingers, and then connect it back to the hand. And that looks like a pretty good little fist. If you read Captain Underpants, or if you have one of those books at home, that's pretty much how the author and illustrator, Dave Pilkey, draws Captain Underpants. So I'm going to stick to that style for today. Now we can move on to the bottom half of his body. This is where Captain Underpants gets his name. Starting pretty close to his armpit here, right where his arm comes into his body, I'm going to draw a curved line that comes down, following kind of the same shape of that circle, and then ends about halfway up the other side. And that's going to be the line for his underpants. And just under that, I'm going to be drawing almost the exact same curve, all the way around like that. Inside of that curve, inside of that kind of curved rectangle, we're going to draw just little dashes, little tiny lines going all the way around the edge. That'll help make it look more like a real pair of underwear. And to help with that, we're also going to draw 2 sets of curved lines here and down here. Pretty close to each other, but now it totally looks like he's wearing a pair of briefs, his Captain Underpants underpants. Now we're going to block in his legs. Now, he has really skinny arms, but Captain Underpants has kind of thick legs. So starting somewhere back here, coming down from his underpants, I'm going to draw 2 curved lines a little further apart than they were for his arm. And then I'm just going to draw the back of his foot, the heel, that's the curved part of your foot on the back. And then I'm going to give him 4 toes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now I've got his first little leg. Now I want his other leg to be kind of bent under him. So I'm actually not going to draw the whole leg. I'm just going to draw the bump of his knee kind of coming out like this and then going right back to his underpants. Now, underneath that, where you would imagine his foot might be peeking out a little bit, I'm just going to peek out some little toes. And now it kind of looks like his leg is bent backwards and his foot is tucked up under behind his bottom. Now, it's actually a very sophisticated drawing trick called foreshortening. And if you want to check out some videos about that, search on YouTube. You might be able to see some more advanced things. But for today's purposes, we're just going to draw a big curve for his leg and then some little bumps for his toes underneath. So the last thing I need to add on Captain Underpants here is his cape. I want his cape to start coming out from his shoulder here. Now, if you still have that line that we drew when he first drew his body, you can erase that. And I like to draw a little fold here. And then I'm going to start the cape line a little bit up from the side of his head. And I'm just going to draw a nice big curve like that. almost like a letter S if you wanted to draw it sideways. Sometimes I like to turn my paper. And then the end of his cape is actually kind of jagged. Jagged means ripped or torn. So I'm just going to draw some little broken lines coming all the way back to his body. Now this cape, if you were coloring him, is red, and it has little black spots on it. So I'm going to draw those little black spots coming down from his cape. Just going to spread them out a little bit. I can have a little bit up here where it curves around his neck. And that's a really nice picture of Captain Underpants. He looks pretty good. Now you could stop here and have a nice picture of Captain Underpants, maybe draw something different on the side. You could give him a setting. Maybe he's flying over the city. Maybe he's in outer space. Maybe he's cheering for his favorite band or performer who might be over here on stage. But since Captain Underpants is a superhero, I'm going to have him fighting a super villain. And I think I don't want him to fly around the city punching people, so I'm going to make a robot. I'm just going to draw a really simple robot with some curved lines and some squares and some rectangles. So I'm going to draw a little rectangle robot head, or actually it looks more like a square, with some circle-shaped eyes and a little antenna on top. And then I'm going to draw just a little rectangle with some lines in it for his neck. I'm going to do a curved rectangle for his body. I kind of wanted to look like Captain Underpants maybe just gave him a big old sock right in his robot head, a nice bonk in the face. So I'm going to finish up this little rectangle, and then maybe this robot's arms are coming off to the sides, the same way I drew Captain Underpants' arms, but I'm going to draw these little straight lines on the robot's arm to make him look a little bit more robotic. I can give him a curved line like this, and then maybe a little angle to give him kind of those robotic crab claws. And I can do the same on the other side. I can draw two curved lines with the straight lines, and then a little crab claw at the end. And then I'll do the same for his legs. Now, I don't want his legs to have crab claws at the end, so I'm going to draw what's called a semicircle. Curved line, and then straight. Kind of looks like a circle that got cut in half. And I'm going to have his legs just kind of bent, almost like Captain Underpants knocked him over. He's about to fall on the ground. And I have a nice little picture of Captain Underpants fighting what might be an evil robot. Now, if you've ever read a Captain Underpants book, you know that Captain Underpants villains tend to be disgusting, and they have gross names like Professor Pee-Pee Poopy Pants. So instead of a boring robot, I'm going to make him a little gross. I'm going to make him disgusting. I'm going to get weird here. I'm going to give him a big triangle-shaped robot nose, and I'm sorry, moms and dads and aunties and uncles and grandmas at home, but I'm going to have some boogers coming out of that nose. And I'm going to draw some straight lines on that nose. It'll look like a robotic nose, maybe even some little pipes for the boogers to come out of. And I'm going to go ahead and call this guy the Booger Bot. Keeping in the tradition of Captain Underpants fighting disgusting villains, now I have a robot who's trying to cover the world in boogers, and Captain Underpants has stopped him. So feel free to make up whatever disgusting villain you want to. Draw Captain Underpants either fighting him or maybe convincing him to stop his evil ways or her evil ways. As always, if you're a Henry Johnson Charter School scholar, snap a picture of your drawing, send it to me on Class Dojo. If you're not, or you're just watching, or if you have a comment or suggestion for something to learn how to draw next time, please put that in the comments below, and I'll do my best to get it up soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Stay safe out there, wash your hands, and I'll see you next time.